Something I've been seeing a lot on NBA Twitter recently is, takes along the lines of the Spurs are holding back Victor Wembanyama. And I recorded a video a while ago before the season started. I never really released it. I didn't like how I analyzed things, whatever, nitpick. And I was basically saying we need to lower our expectations for Victor Wembanyama. Like he's going to be a semi-normal rookie looking statistically. Like obviously he's 7'4" and he can dribble and shoot like, Kevin Durant, sort of, but his potential is what we're looking at when we say that. Like he has the physical gifts to be this amazing player. I don't think that this season really shocks me at all. I think Chet honestly deserves the Rookie of the Year award, but I think it's kind of in a situation where it's like, Carmelo Anthony versus LeBron James in 2003. They're probably going to give it to Wembanyama. You can argue who deserves it more if you'd like to. I personally think that Chet has made a bigger impact so far. As of this point in the season, I think you have to give it to Chet. Chet Holmgren's been amazing. I'm going to make a completely separate video about him and the Thunder because they've been absolutely taking the West by storm this year. They've been incredible. I think that Wembanyama suffers from the same thing that every number one pick does, especially in recent years. The overhype, the pressure that the media puts on them because they're saying, all right, you know, to get interest, these teams that suck are now getting a transcendently great player. And honestly, that's just fucked up. You can't say that you're going to be getting, even one transcendently great player every single year, especially not from the first overall pick. There's busts all the time. You see it. Players like Andrew Wiggins, who aren't really terrible, but they weren't nearly the best player in their draft. They don't have that. Like Wiggins was Canadian LeBron, and that's what they're doing with every number one pick since LeBron, trying to find someone who's gonna like become the next great. You're setting them up to fail. A take that I see that really irritates me is that people act like the Spurs don't want Wemby to succeed. Like, yeah, I get it. You can find a couple highlights of them missing him. If you want to nitpick, you can prove that Jaylen Brown hates Jason Tatum. I watch games all the time. Jaylen can't find Tatum. He might get a double once he drives and he just can't find the angle to pass it. That doesn't mean that they hate playing with each other and that they're trying to stop each other from succeeding, right? You miss guys on cuts sometimes. And I get it. You want them to feed Wembanyama more. That's valid. I get it. But these guys also have their own egos. They also have, their own skill set. Like they're trying to make money. They're not just saying, all right, well, we all suck and we're going to feed Victor the whole game. That's not how it works. Nobody thinks like that. I think the point that really irritates me is that people are actually actively trying to make it look like these guys don't like Victor Wembanyama at all. Like they don't like him or that they don't want him to succeed. I know I've said that before in this video. I'm just like, that's the point that really irritates me. It's like, that's their teammate. I get that they're not feeding him as much as you want to see him fed in terms of how many shots and whatever. Like, yeah, he's supposed to be their guy, but you can't say that, these other teammates of his are like trying to hinder his career. I think that's a really weird narrative. I get that the Spurs have been atrocious, like actually horrible, but again, you can't just say, well, like you're trying to absolve Victor of completely all of the blame when he has been the best player on an objectively horrible team. Some of it's got to go to him, right? Like that's you can't expect a rookie to come in and lead a team, and you definitely can't expect said rookie to bring that team to the play-in. I'm just saying, like they're doing this in an attempt to like completely rid Wembanyama of any accountability, and that's kind of the same stuff that they do for LeBron when a team loses that he's the best player on. They hold everyone else accountable except for him, and a lot of teams do that with their favorite player, and like fans will do it, but to see it as like a league wide narrative forming, I think is ridiculous. That's kind of my issue with it. Like I said, I get it. The Spurs have been atrociously bad. I understand that. I totally understand how bad the Spurs have been. I do not think it is fair to say that guys like, Jeremy Sochan and Malachi Branham, like those guys aren't trying to make Victor look like a bad player. They obviously struggle as playmakers and they struggle to, feed guys, but that's what the Spurs want to do. And I think I'm just saying if you're going to blame someone, blame Pop. Pop plays that style of basketball where, you're not really getting that star, the action as much. You're playing a team game. And even if you do get the star of the ball, you're trying to get him to pass too. And I'm not saying that that's bad basketball. I'm just saying that's why Wembanyama is not going to come out ever and average like 40 points. If you disagree, that's fine, but you have to like take into account the players that he's coached. Like, for example, DeMar DeRozan, when he got traded there for Kawhi, I mean, his scoring went down like 5 points per game. Yeah, his assists went up and they were using him in a totally different role. But then he goes to Chicago and his points go right back up again. So it's just interesting to me that people don't ever question Pop's methods. I get it. He's probably the most decorated coach, one of the best, if not the best basketball coaches of all time. But it's kind of in that weird situation. It almost parallels the Patriots with Bill Belichick right now, where you're like, all right, yeah, I mean, the team stinks and they need to lose to get a good draft pick. And at this point, especially with the Patriots, you're like, is it time to move on? Because they haven't won since Tom Brady left. Spurs haven't really won anything since Tim Duncan, but with that too, they had a good chance, and then Kawhi had the Zaza Pachulia thing. So yikes! But since Kawhi, they've won nothing. They've competed a little bit, but I just don't think they're anywhere near playoff contention. And I guess my point about this is trying to figure out like what is Greg Popovich's legacy. He's not going to be remembered for the guy that hindered Wembanyama's development. I just think the issue there is that you're on different timelines and the Spurs are not ready to compete right now, obviously. I like Keldon Johnson a lot. I like Victor Wembanyama a lot. I think they have a lot of guys who can help produce at this high level, but I think they need a little bit of a culture change just with the types of players that they have. I don't dislike how Coach Popovich is running it necessarily. Like I said, it's good for a team basketball environment, but you also do kind of need to get your best player the ball when he is in an advantageous position. So you realistically need to be looking for him at all times. I mean, there shouldn't be that many possessions where Wembanyama doesn't touch a ball. I don't watch a lot of the Spurs. Admittedly, I'm not going to pretend like I've seen their whole season, but I will say they are obviously not winning and they're not doing what it takes to win. There was a lot of early season hype when he had that 30-point game against the Suns and they had that miraculous comeback. But I don't know. I just think people are trying to over and underestimate these players and this team. And a lot of the time it's really more in the middle ground that you need to make your assumptions and you need to be critical when a player is not meeting this middle ground. Like, we're not saying Wembanyama should be the outstanding 25 point per game scorer that he's hopefully going to be off the bat, you know? Like, he's probably going to develop into that, but we can't expect that out of him right now. He's friggin' 19 years old. And at the same time, you can acknowledge that, yeah, the team probably could feed him more, and that's part of it. But you can also say, hey, you know, Victor also has been overhyped, and we kind of just need to accept who he actually is going to be as a player. He's not going to be like heads and shoulders above everyone else, other than his height, which obviously he's tall. I guess to sum it up, the Spurs suck. Wembanyama is not producing at the extremely high level that everyone wants him to be right now. Is that his fault? No. I think he's going to be totally fine for the future. He's a great basketball player, but also you're going to see him have the traditional rookie kind of problems and ascension into stardom that everybody else has. He doesn't get to skip that. He's not special. Like if LeBron didn't come out averaging more than 20 points per game as a rookie, then like it takes him a minute. So just give him some time. I think the Spurs will be okay, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on, and it's definitely something to see about Coach Popovich and how he handles this team going forward.